let's finish the notes. When we last left off, we had talked about parallel lines. Parallel lines are lines on the same plane. That's the flat surface. That's an awkward looking L in the word flat there, but yeah. Same flat surface, and they'll never intersect like these. They have the exact same slope. Well, perpendicular lines are quite different. Perpendicular lines are lines on the same plane, P-L-A-N-E, same flat surface, that meet at a 90-degree angle. And you know what a 90-degree angle is? It's a right angle. It's about like, well, that right there. Well, there's one right there. There's a whole bunch of them all over this thing. So we're going to draw this line, and when we draw this line, we'll kind of have an indication of what the slope is. Now, I'll go ahead and tell you this line is the exact same as the one that we have up here. So I would go through this entire process again, but I choose not to do so. So we are going to use this equation, again, because that is the same as that. And so there's our equation. This is what it really is. Y equals -3/2 x plus 3, and we'll graph it. So we go, I'll use blue for no reason at all. So we'll go up to 3 because of that. We'll go down 3 and to the right 2. So down 3 to the right 2, and there's our line. There it is right there. Okay, so now we're going to draw another line that is perpendicular to the first line, and the new line should have a y-intercept of -2. Okay, these are the same directions we had up at the top, only it's not going to be parallel, it's going to be perpendicular. So it's not going to be this. This is not the answer. Okay, that would be parallel. That's what we did earlier. Now we want it to make a right angle. So it's going to be about right there. About right there, and I don't mean about right there. Actually, I mean exactly right there, because I kind of know where this thing is going, and I want to show you what the slope of it is actually going to be. So let me put down a dot that will clarify things. But once I connect these two dots, I'll show you where I got that dot from in just a minute. But once I connect these dots and I have drawn these lines, then I'll have the right angle that I need, indicated by this little box in this corner. It's a right angle. And now let me tell you where that dot came from. And it will happen when I tell you this. Perpendicular slopes are negative reciprocals of one another. Okay, let me clarify what that means. Negative doesn't necessarily mean they're both negative, because they're not. They actually can't be. But one of them is positive, the other one is negative. When I say negative reciprocal, I really mean opposite sign, and reciprocal means to flip the fraction over. So, the slope of this line was what? This one had a slope of, and I'll write it in blue, this one had a slope where m equaled -3 divided by 2. So -3/2. -3/2 was the slope of this line, and now we have another line, and this one has a slope of, and this is why I picked this dot so beautifully, if I went from one point to another, I would rise 2 and run 3. So the slope is +2/3. So I'm going to go up 2 and over 3. Here's what I want to point out. They're negative. Let's not use the word negative. Let's use opposite signs. They are opposite signs of one another, and they are reciprocals of one another. One of them is 2/3, the other one is 3/2, or -3/2. So if one of them is 2/3, the other one's -3/2. So let's flip this paper over, and let's get to work. Given the lines below, identify the slope, then identify a slope that would be perpendicular to it. So we're going to do the easy part first. So the slope of this line is what? 1/3. Fantastic. I'm just going to go straight across and identify slope first, and then we're going to come back through and talk about the slopes that would be perpendicular to it. So let's just identify slopes, and then we're going to pull out this definition right here and go with it. So what's the slope of this line? -3/2. We actually just saw that exact same one. What's the slope of this line? +2/5. What's the slope of this line? Oh my goodness, I don't know. It's not clear. It's not showing up. This is not in slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept, 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 not slope-intercept. This is not slope-intercept because y is not by itself. We have to go through the process. Here we go. Got to get y by itself. That's all I ever wanted. We got to get this 4x to the other side, so negative 3y stays exactly where it is. We will move the 4x. It becomes negative 4x. 12 stays on the same side of the equal marks that it was on, and it was positive to start with. We will now divide by negative 3, divide that by negative 3, divide that by negative 3, and we cancel all of those. Y equals negative divided by negative is positive 4/3 x. 12 divided by negative 3 is negative 4. We have a y-intercept of negative 4. That's fantastic, but that's not what they asked. They wanted to know what the slope was, and the slope is 4/3. Found it. I think I had referred to it at one point in the previous video as interrogating this until it tells me the slope. I can't just look at that and tell what the slope is. Actually, there is somewhat of a shortcut, and I might tell you in a minute, but this is not in slope-intercept form. So people don't generally look at this and say, hey, look at that slope. No, now we can look at the slope. Okay, let's separate those a little bit. This is not in slope-intercept form, but it's about to be. We'll move the 5x over. 5y equals 5x moves to the other side, and it becomes negative 5x and plus 10. We will divide by 5, divide by 5, divide by 5, cancel, cancel. Y equals negative 5 divided by positive 5 is negative 1x plus 2. So now we know our slope. It's negative 1. You want a shortcut? Too bad you're not getting it yet. M equals, slope on this one. Don't say 1/3. It's not. It's not. It's not. It's not. It is not. Let me show you what this actually looks like. If we graphed it, what we would do is we would cross the y-axis here. We would cross the y-axis at 1/3. So what's the slope of that red line right there? Well, it's completely horizontal, and because it's horizontal, it has a flat slope. Some people say that's no slope. No slope. Actually, that's technically not no slope. So that has a slope of 0. So next one, this one be x equals negative 4, and this one, I was about to switch colors. Let's not. 3, 4, and so this one, vertical line, right there. Vertical line of negative 4. Now what's the slope of this one? Well, we can't attach a number to it. That's the catch. So this one actually has what we would call no slope. I'm going to say it's an undefined slope. Undefined slope. So if I'm riding my bicycle on this, I'd say, well, it's perfectly flat. If I'm riding my bicycle on this, then I'm a magician. Okay, you can't ride your bicycle up that hill. Can't happen. Okay, so now let's go back through and actually follow the directions. Because it said identify the slope. Ooh, did that. But now we need to find the slope that would be perpendicular to it. So I'm going to switch colors to red just because. And I'm going to talk about perpendicular slopes. Now, there is a symbol for perpendicular. And it looks like, well, a right angle. It's kind of like an upside down T. So that's what this means, perpendicular. So when you see that upside down T, it means perpendicular. So if the slope is 1/3, the perpendicular slope is obviously not 1/3. But what I'm going to do is flip it over, and it becomes 3/1. 3 divided by 1 is just 3. And I'm also going to change the sign. That's where that whole negative reciprocal comes in. It was positive, it becomes negative. So a slope of 1/3 and negative 3 are perpendicular to each other. They would meet like that. All right? So a perpendicular slope to negative 3/2 would be, well, change the sign. So whatever I'm about to write, it's going to be positive. And I don't want 3/2 anymore. I want to take that fraction and turn it over, and it becomes 2/3. Perpendicular slope on this one. Okay. Gonna flip it over and change the sign. Flip it over, change the sign. Flip it over, change the sign. Flip it over, change the sign. That's all you have to do. There are exceptions. These are the exceptions. But we're going to flip it over and change the sign. If we flipped it over, we'd get 5/2. Change the sign, becomes negative. Flip it over, change the sign. Flip it over, change the sign. That's all it is. Flip that over. We're going to use the reciprocal. It's 3/4. The opposite of positive is negative. Man, this is getting easy. Perpendicular slope here is, oh, wait a minute. We don't have a fraction. Don't worry, you got this. If this was a fraction, it'd be -1 divided by 1. Flip it over and change the sign. Okay, let's go ahead and change the sign. Negative turns into a positive. So whatever I'm about to write, it better be positive, first of all. Second of all, what's 1 divided by 1? Well, 1. There you go. That one's just 1. So if I flipped it over, I'd have positive 1 over 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. Okay, now it gets tricky. I hope you notice these two graphs right here. If I put them on the same graph, and actually let's do that. Let's put this graph on this one. It's kind of hard to explain and wrap your mind around. Question, are these two red lines that I just drew, are they perpendicular? Do they make a right angle? Yes, they do actually. So here's the first explanation. A slope of 0 and an undefined slope are perpendicular to one another. This is the one where you can't flip it over and change the sign. Because, here you go. If I was going to turn this into a fraction, here's the second explanation. You don't have to write this, it just gets kind of confusing. But if I turned that into a fraction, I'd have 0 divided by 1. So then I would say I'm about to write something mathematically illegal here. All right, I would say my perpendicular slope is negative 1 divided by 0. You can't divide by 0. That's impossible. And that is why this is undefined. This, undefined, that is the actual answer. I'm not going to write that because I hate having divided by 0 on my paper. It's just wrong on every level. You can't divide by 0, which is why it's undefined. Well, if it was undefined, then you were dividing by 0, and now we flip it back over, and when you flip it back over, the perpendicular slope would be 0. And if you're lost on that, here's the main thing. These two right here, a slope of 0 and an undefined slope, are perpendicular to each other for obvious graphical reasons. Look at that right angle that they make right there. Okay, we're going to work through the rest of this paper. And I'm going to go somewhat quickly, but it's not going to be that bad. Here goes. What is the equation of the line? Pause. Right there. Do a little problem solving. It's asking for the equation of a line. If it's asking for the equation of a line, then by the time, oh my goodness, you've heard this over and over. By the time you're done, it better look like this. That's what I'm looking for. I wrote it over here because I'm going to do some other work and eventually it's going to end up over there. You can put it wherever you want though. It has a line, it's perpendicular to that. Oh, perpendicular to that? So here's what I need. I need my slope. What is my slope? Right now, forget the word perpendicular. What is my slope right now? 3/2. Okay, now that I know what my slope is, I can find the slope that's perpendicular to it by doing that. Flip it over, change the sign. Flip it over, change the sign. All right, y equals negative 2/3 x. And it has a y-intercept of 5. Well, you know what? I found my slope. And it goes here. Now, let me clarify. Just because I have perpendicular slope here, that does go in the formula. I know you're like, m equals 3/2. We'll put 3/2. No, don't put 3/2. Put negative 2/3. That's the one I really want. That really should say perpendicular slope. Anyway, and my y-intercept, well, that's b right there. My y-intercept is 5. We're done. Okay, let's keep going. Write the equation of a line that is perpendicular. Oh, equation of a line. I'm leaving space to fill in some numbers. I need two things. I need slope. I'm going to actually need a perpendicular slope, and I'm going to need a y-intercept. So here's the slope. Slope is 1/7. Yay, fantastic. That's not what I want though. What I really want to do is flip that over. 7 divided by 1. You can put it over 1 if you want. I choose not to. And you change the sign. Yay, I have my slope. So y equals mx plus b, where m is now negative 7, but it goes through this point. So they didn't give me the same information they gave me last time, but they gave me an x and a y. All right, so here we go. I'm going to write this formula again. Y equals mx plus b. You can write it wherever you want. Negative 3 equals negative 7 times negative 1 plus b. Negative 3 equals negative 7 times negative 1 is positive 7 plus b, and we'll subtract 7 from both sides, and b equals negative 10. We've done this. We've been through this process. We now know slope, we now know the intercept, and we can write our equation. Y equals negative 7x minus 10. We have found it. There we go. Okay, I think it's shortcut time. I think it's time for me to give you a shortcut. Here we go. I'm looking for slope. I want to show you something. Remember when we did this one back in the day? And we had to move the 3x over and divide by 2. Okay, you had to, follow me closely here. We had to move the 3x over, so we changed its sign, and then we divided by 2. And that was your slope. It was the opposite of this divided by this. I'm going to say it again and point in 2 different places at the same time. You get 2 different things to point with. My slope ended up being the opposite of 3 divided by 2. Okay, slide down a little bit. Look right here. What was my slope? The opposite of 4 divided by 3. Negative 4/3. You see it? Same here. Actually, same problem as up at the top. Negative 3 divided by 2. Let's flip it over. Negative 4 divided by negative 3. Negative divided by negative is positive 4/3. Now we had to flip it over and change the sign, but in the process of solving, there you go. Okay, I've said this before. You know how I said we didn't know what the slope was just by looking at it? Well, now you can tell. Negative 4 over negative 3. Negative over negative is positive. Negative 5 over 5. Negative 5 divided by positive 5 is negative 1. Now we had to change it to perpendicular. Let's keep going. Here we go. I'm not even going to solve it. I'm just going to do my little shortcut. My slope, originally, before I ever did the perpendicular thing, is negative 5 divided by negative 3. Negative divided by negative is positive. There it is. So now my perpendicular slope is opposite sign. Flip it over. Change the sign. Negative 3/5. That's an ugly 3, but there you go. And it passes through that point. Well, if it passes through that point, then y equals mx plus b, as always. And we have negative 3 equals negative 3/5 times 10 plus b. Okay, so let's see. Negative 3/5 times 10 was negative something. 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 3 is 6. And again, it was negative. We will add 6 to both sides, and when we do, b equals 3. Okay, here's what I need. My goodness, we've been through this and been through this and been through this. Isn't it fun? I now have my slope. I now have my y-intercept. Y equals negative 3/5 x plus 3. We are done with that one. Okay, this next one is a little different. Now, I know you're probably in shortcut mode and you're like, yay, I don't have to solve it every time to find my slope. Hold on now. What's the slope of that? What's the slope of that line right there? Kind of hard to tell. There's a couple ways of doing it. I'm actually going to do this one very, very differently. I'll go ahead and tell you the slope is 0 because we're going to cross 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to cross the y-axis at 6. Okay? So, I'm going to go graphical on this one because I want to kind of show you what it looks like. If it passes through that point and it's perpendicular to this line, then it's going to look like this. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to pass, let's draw the new one in green. It's going to go right here. And it does that right there. Let's draw it. Let's draw it. These are kind of weird. All right. We drew it, but that doesn't answer my question. Actually, it kind of does. So what's the slope of this line? 0. If you wanted to, you could say slope equals 0. So my perpendicular slope is undefined for reasons that were explained right up here. See them? Okay. So my slope is 0, so my perpendicular slope is undefined. Well, if my perpendicular slope is undefined, all of a sudden, slope-intercept form is irrelevant. So I'm going to write this down, and then I'm going to be like, oh no, that's wrong, so don't write this. Y equals mx plus b. Not today. Well, not on this problem. Yes, today, but not on this problem. This is not my answer because it's a vertical line. When your slope is undefined, yeah, good luck plugging that in there. That's not going to work. So this is not right. Get the white out and get rid of it. It's gone. Never even knew it was there. See, you can't even see that white out. So what I really need to know is the equation of this line. Well, what is the equation of this line? This is a line that is completely vertical, that crosses, ooh, watch, I'm about to write the answer, that crosses the x-axis at -4. Boom. See it? See it? See where I'm pointing? There's your answer. Now, that's not to say your answer is always the x-coordinate or the y-coordinate. On situations like this, draw it. Please draw it. Okay, here goes. For each set of equations below are the lines parallel, perpendicular, or neither. So what we need to do is identify slopes and figure out if they are the same. Let's write some words. Parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines are negative reciprocals, opposite reciprocals, call it what you will. I'm going to call it opposite reciprocals. Opposite reciprocals. And neither would be, well, it's not that and it's not that. Okay, let's do this and we'll see what happens. First thing I need to know is the slope of this one. So if I had x plus y equals 4, I'm going to use my shortcut. 1, that's a 1. So my slope is -1 divided by 1. And the slope of my other one, y equals x plus 1. This one is already in slope-intercept form. There we go. All right, so my slope here is 1. Let's make it a fraction. Okay, question, are these the same? No, they are not parallel. Are they opposite reciprocals of each other? If I changed the sign and flipped it over, would I get the other one? You bet I would. Therefore, the answer to this one is perpendicular. Okay, these. Wow, these are crazy. But here's my number. No, I'm kidding. All right, let's graph them. When in doubt, graph it out. Ooh, that rhymes, so it must be true. So x equals -1. Y equals -1. I was about to put the red arrow on the green line. That wouldn't work now, would it? Are they perpendicular or parallel? Neither? I think it's pretty obvious. Those two things right there, they are parallel. Ah, sorry, perpendicular. Woo! Perpendicular. All right, next one. This one's going to make you mad, actually. This one's going to make you quite mad. But we're going to do it. I don't like this problem, but I gave it to you anyway. So we have 3x plus 5y equals -10. And we can do our little shortcut, which, by the way, I'm going to write down in a minute just so you'll never forget it for the rest of your life. My shortcut says the slope is -3 over 5, in this case. -3 divided by 5. Okay, fantastic. And in this one, I have -3x minus 5y equals 10. And I'll say my slope is -3. Wow, that's wordy. Negative makes it +3 divided by -5. Okay, are these the same? Yes, they are. Guess what, though? They're not parallel. Okay, these two are the same. Now, I know the negative's in the top on this one and in the bottom on that one, and it honestly doesn't matter. A negative is a negative, whether it's on the top or the bottom. You can shift it around. You'll get the same value either way. Nevertheless, these are not parallel, and I want to show you why. I want to show you, and it's going to be so wonderful. If I was going to solve this thing for y and solve this one for y, then I would have a y-intercept of -10 divided by 5. In the process of solving for y, I would have to divide by 5. What's -10 divided by 5, negative 2. Okay, let's do the same thing here. In the process of solving this for y, which I didn't go through, I would have 10 divided by negative 5. What's 10 divided by negative 5? Negative 2. And not only do I have the same slope, I have the same y-intercept. Real quick, I want to prove a point. You don't have to draw this, you can just kind of watch. Here's my first line. Negative 2, down 3 over 5. There it is. Okay, here's my second line. Starts at negative 2, down 3 over 5. Oh, man, exact same line. So this wasn't one of the options, but this is actually the same line. There we go. Okay, one more problem. Here goes. I'm going to use my shortcut on the first one. Negative 3 divided by 5 is my first slope. Negative 3 divided by 5. Here's my second slope. Negative 3 divided by negative 5. Well, negative divided by negative is positive. Are these the same? No. Not parallel. Are they opposite signs? Yes. But are they reciprocals? No. So they are not parallel. They are not perpendicular. They are neither. I should have written that in red. I don't know why I didn't. Okay, real quick, on a Post-it note, I want to show you something. Real quick. I'll try to make it as quick as I can. You can just scribble this wherever you want, but it's going to come in handy, so you should write it somewhere. For ax plus by equals c, we know a couple things. The slope is equal to opposite of that over that. And the y-intercept, little b, is equal to, if I'm solving for y, I'd have c divided by b. And I can prove that whole thing to you right now, if you want me to. And real quickly, I'm going to do that. But this is the main gist of it right there. This is the one you're going to use the most right there. Right there. Okay, so in order to solve for y, I'd take this ax and move it to the other side. So I'd have by equals negative ax plus c. And then I would divide by b, and divide that by b, and divide that by b. And we'd cancel, and y would equal negative a over b times x plus c over b. Don't be afraid that there's no numbers in there. It's all right. But you see what your slope is? Negative a over b. Boom. C over b is your y-intercept. There you go.